Okay, fine. So yesterday we have learned about the scope. We have started with the scope, but we have not completed yet. So we'll see that. Today we'll continue with that one. So anyone has any question? No questions? Okay, fine. So we'll try to execute this one. The flow, I'm going to show you how actually JavaScript engine is going to execute. Okay, this one. As I said, once if you will start running your code, okay, once if you will start running your code, automatically JavaScript engine is going to create what? A global scope. Not directly JavaScript engine. Inside JavaScript engine, we do have kind of a scope manager who is managing all those like variable environments and a scope where to access the variable, and it will limits the boundaries for each and every identifier and functions. So if you can see here directly, if I'll type, let's say window. So in this case, when you are running your JavaScript in browser, then global object will be directly, the global object will be window. Okay. So if you will see inside global object directly, what are the identifiers which are defined? Here we have name, we have magic 1, we have magic 2. Okay. Three things are defined directly inside the global scope. So you can check here. One thing you can do is simply you need to expand it, this window object, and inside that you will be able to find here, see the magic 1. Here we have magic 1. I'm going to increase a bit. So if you are able to see here, the magic 1, magic 2, and name is also defined. Okay, name. You can see the value as John. So in global scope, it is defined. So whenever someone is asking what is the global object in browser, when you are working with browser, when the JavaScript engine or the, you can say the runtime environment is inside browser, then global object will be window. So here we have the window object, and entire thing will be inside the window object only. So simply to access any property of any object, what you need to do, you need to write just that object name dot, name dot, and whatever you have declared, no, that will be now the property of that object. So as a property, you can call here name. See, when you will call window dot name, you will get John. When you will call window dot magic 1, you will get that function expression. Okay. When you will call magic 2, you will get another function expression. See here. So each and everything is now inside what? Inside global scope. You can say kind of namespace it is. Okay, right now. So if you have worked with some other high-level programming language Java or C++, in that we do have classes. So here you can assume this one as a class, and this is another member of that class. Okay. So window dot name when I'm calling. So you need to remember whatever you are declaring by default, it will be attached to the global object normally. We will see other cases also later when we will learn about the let const, that thing. Then we will see like how it is working. Okay, so for now, you can see here whatever I'm declaring as an identifier, whether it is a variable or a function, it is getting attached to which object? The global object, which is here right now, window. So if you will type directly window, or if you will type this, if you will type here global this, Okay, so all these three keywords right now in global scope, it is pointing to the window only. So you can write here global, you can write directly window, but in different context, this will behave differently, that we are going to learn. So it is always better when you want to refer any property of the global object, always write the window only as a global object name. Okay, if you want to access something from the global scope, you need to use this one. So basically in JavaScript, we do have two types of scope. One is block scope, another one is function scope. So inside function, whatever the variable environment will be, that is also known as local scope. Okay, so that we are going to see today, and we'll see how actually this program is going to execute. So let's say here I'm going to write this one as username. Okay, username, copy, and the same variable I'm going to declare inside this function. Okay, I'm going to save this one. After saving also, I'm getting the same result. Now I will debug this one and will show you how exactly it is going to execute. Okay, so yesterday we have learned about the creation phase and the execution phase. So how actually JavaScript engine is going to understand this one and what it will do in the creation phase and in execution phase. So what I'm going to do is simply I'm going to put a debugger over here, debugger keyword, semicolon. And now I will run. Once if I'll start running, no, see, if I'll close this one and will save it, you won't be able to see anything because we do not have anything on the console. Once again, here I need to save. I'll save it. Now this got saved. You're not able to see anything. If you will go to the console, okay, here in console, you are getting these two values. Now I'm going to refresh it. So once you will open that developer tool, no, then only you will be able to see the debugger functionalities. So right now, once if you are starting your code, it is directly going to the debugger. Okay. Now we will see a step-by-step execution over here, how actually it is going to execute the code. So right now I'm going to again refresh the page and observe here in call stack what will be there. Once if you will run your code, no, this anonymous function will come here. Anonymous means right now this one is nothing but global. So global means here the window object is running right now. The global scope is in the call stack. So always the call stack is for just to trace the control where right now you are in which scope right now you are. You can see here inside the scope, it is showing as a global. Now I'm going a step by step. See here. You can press F10 also. When I'm going for the next line, where the control is right now in line number 53, and still where I am in call stack, you can see that is anonymous means in global scope, and the scope is also global. And inside global, I'm going to expand it. Inside global, which variable it is? Username. So just you can check here username. Here it is. And right now in creation phase, what is the value inside username? Undefined. So as I said, while I was explaining like the variable declaration, once if you will declare any variable at the time creation phase here, see, if I'll hover here, what value you are getting here? Undefined. So automatically it will initialize with the undefined. Right now, this value is not assigned yet. Okay, that you can see. And here also you are able to see in global scope, this got registered, means this got declared in that global scope, but initial value is initialized here as a undefined. Okay. Now Now I'm going to press again F10. Inside username now, the new value you can see here we have John. Okay. And after assigning this value, where it is going. So this declaration is also done. This declaration is also done in the creation phase. Now it is calling. Okay, it is going to call this magic one. It will invoke simply. So once if you will see here, it is going to invoke and the execution is completed here for magic 2. I'm going to see, welcome is done. That is completed. The first magic one is done. Now second one, it will execute. And now it is going to the console here, see, hello. And again, if I'll click here, it will execute. And that is related to the live server thing. So I'm going to just skip. So now your program execution is done. And here you have these two outputs. But right now we were not able to trace that. I'll show you how actually these two functions are getting executed. So for that, what we have to do, we have to put a debugger over here and here also. Okay. Here, when I'm calling this one, and here also. Now I'm going to again refresh this one. So in real time also you can debug like this. So right now we are in global scope, and in call stack you can see where we are right now. We are in global scope. I'm going to just press F10. The control will go for the next line here, and the username is right now undefined. Now it will assign that value. See, the updated value is John, and again the control is going to the magic one. So when you will check here, because here you are trying to call this magic one. So first you need to check whether it is declared or not. If it is declared, then only you will be able to call, no? So here it will check whether magic one is declared or not. So in global scope, it will go, because right now you are in global scope. In global scope, it will check. So see here, the magic one is there as a function. It is declared, and magic two is also there. That we will see later. I'm going to just collapse this one. So right now here, see, observe this one, call stack. So where you are in global scope, once if you will invoke this function, see, on top of this, the magic one is added. So it is showing us that right now we are inside magic one function, and the control is inside magic one. So we can identify by using this call stack that where actually the control is right now in our program. Okay, for that we are using call stack. This is a kind of data structure. It will work like a stack only. So last in first out based on that. So here we have the first one. It is still running. It will wait for that control. Once this one is done, again the control will go for the next line. So here you can see the control is inside magic one. And once if you will invoke this function,
Sir, voice is not audible, sir.
Hey, sorry, I was speaking on mute. You should have told me like at the time only when I was speaking. Okay, no problem. I'll try to execute this one again. Now, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, I'll explain this one again. No problem. See, so what is happening right now, you can see, as I have explained, once you will start running your code, the global execution context is being created, and that is like pushed inside the call stack. Okay, this call stack is just to trace where you are right now in your program, or you can say where is the control right now in your program, because JavaScript is a synchronous programming language. At a time, it can work on only one thing. Okay, so that's why here you can check if you have like 1000 lines of code and you want to check like where is the control right now. So by using this call stack, you can trace. So here, see, we have this execution context, and that is pushed inside the call stack as a global scope. And here we have the variable environment, you can say, or the scope for this execution context. Okay, and all the identifiers are attached to the global scope right now. See, now I'm going to press the F10. Okay, so when I'll press F10, the username by default, it is initialized with undefined value. Okay, if you will check inside global, that username, right now it is undefined. See here, it is undefined. Okay, now I'm going to update this one. If I'll click here, see, right now it is undefined. If I'll execute, or if I'll press F10, the new value got assigned to the username, and if I'll hover here, you are getting the updated value as John. Okay, and now it will go for the next execution. Okay, and here we have, this is declaration, this is also declaration, that already happened at the time of creation. Okay, now here we have magic one, and it will check here first whether magic one is declared or not. So magic one is already declared in the global scope, that it will check. Okay, in global scope, magic one is there, that you can see here, magic one, and magic two is also there. So right now we have to check magic one. If it is there, then it is saying invoke this one. Okay, so for that, what we have to do, just I'm going to collapse this one and observe here. Right now we do have this call stack, and inside call stack right now, in which scope we are right now, in global scope we are. So that's why here we have the anonymous, that is global, and here inside the scope we have just the global scope environment, or the variable environment, or identifier environment, you can say. Once if I will say call this one or invoke this one, if you will invoke, no, it is going to create a new execution context once control will come here, no, and then that method is going to be pushed inside this call stack. So let's see here. Just observe here in call stack and in a scope. So see here, once this one is invoked in call stack, where you are right now, the control here you can see is inside magic one function. So that function which is getting executed right now is pushed inside the call stack. So call stack is a kind of data structure which will work on the based on what, that last in first out. And here you can see the magic one is now pushed inside this call stack, and new scope has been created, or new variable environment has been created once this function is invoked. And you can see here we have two things, because we have a declaration inside this function magic one, that is username, and right now it is initialized with undefined because there is no value in it. If you will execute this line, then this value will be assigned and it will update here. Okay, that we will see. See now, the updated value here is Ram. You can see here Ram, and the control is going to the next line. If you will see here on console, there is nothing right now. Now I'm going to execute that line, console.log welcome. So it will print on console that welcome message. And still you can observe here the local scope is there. And as you can see, this return value is undefined because we are not returning anything from this function. So I was explaining you about this function in when I was teaching about the function and its types. Like if you are not going to return anything, what it is going to return by default? See here, the practically you can see the return value for this particular function is undefined. Username updated value is Ram, and we do not have anything to execute in this block. So we are here at the end of this function. Once it will get terminated, no, then the garbage collection is very smart here. Actually, it is going to automatically collect all those things which is not required. So what it is going to do, it is going to remove this local scope actually from the memory, and this magic one will be popped out because this function execution is done. And again control will go back to where, once it is popped out, where you will be in global scope. Okay, so that we are going to see. Observe here, once I'll press F10, no, or if I'll click here to the next step, this local scope or the local variable environment for this magic function will be uh, deleted from here, and this magic one will be also popped out. See here, see that local scope got deleted from here or destroyed, or you can say garbage collected, and that magic one is also popped out from the call stack. And the control here, the blue arrow, you can see where we are right now. Again we are back to the global scope. Okay, so we are able to trace actually where we are right now, in which scope. Now we have magic 2. Again it will check whether magic 2 is there or not. It will say yeah, magic 2 is already declared. Then it will say okay, invoke this one. So if you will try to invoke, again observe here in call stack, if you will try to invoke this one, then one execution context will be created, and this magic 2 function will be pushed inside the what, that actually execution context. Okay, will be pushed inside the call stack. And again for this particular function, it will create a variable environment inside the scope. Observe that one now. Again one local scope got created, and here the magic 2, you can see that is pushed inside the stack. And where is the control right now? It is showing just that you are right now inside magic 2 function. And here we have a declaration. What type of declaration? Here we have a variable declaration, and by default right now it is initialized with the undefined value. Now I'm going to press here, see in greet we have undefined, there is no return value right now for this scope because we are not done yet for this function execution. So the updated value for greet here is hello. You can see that got updated here. Okay, now observe here in local scope, still we are in magic 2. Here we have console.log. Okay, and what is the value of greet? It will check in this environment first. If it is not there, then only it will go for the global scope, that we will see in a scope chain. Don't worry about that. So here it is going to print the value of greet. Right now, if you will check on console, we have just welcome. Okay, we are going to execute this one. Once if we will execute and there will be no other line for that function, Here you can see that returned value as well. Okay, so we are done with this function. In console, you can see it printed hello. That is the value of what? Greet. And now if you will press what? The F10, this local scope will be destroyed again, and this magic too, because the execution is done for this one. So this one will be also garbage collected, and it will be popped out from the call stack. So let's see here, observe that one. See, now again you are back to the what? In global scope. That's why here it is showing you as anonymous, and that
So call stack anonymous means what means?
anonymous means by default you are in global scope. That is a global execution context. This is also one scope, no? That's what I was saying. Like once if you will start running your code, means you are in global scope. By default, your program is in global scope. Okay.
Okay.
Your program execution or entry point actually, if you have written any code in C, C++, then there will be also an entry point called main function, isn't it? So like that here also, once if you will start running your code, it will be by default in global scope first. The entry will be from global only. From outside to inside only you can go. So here we have first one as a global scope.
So
Your
for that
program,
we already have that window and window function, no window.
yeah, window means that is object. Okay, that is object. And whatever you have declared here, see, whatever you have declared, where it is inside window only, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it all these functions are attached to the window object, means inside global. So externally, you can see the whole program is inside global scope. So once if you will start running this one, okay, automatically in call stack, it will show that, hey, your program is running. If you want to remove this one, just you have one option that you can close your browser, then this will be popped out from the call stack. Once if you will stop running your code, okay. So call stack is just to trace that where is the control right now in your program. And at a time in one program, you can have only one call stack, no more than one. Okay. I'm talking about call stack, not the execution context. Okay. So like this, actually the JavaScript engine is executing the code. First will be the creation phase. Another one will be what? Execution phase. Okay. So we will take some other examples also, and we will do the same kind of conversation as we had yesterday, like between the compiler, scope manager, and JavaScript engine. And first method, like I'm going to show you with that method, and another method is also there that I can show you how actually it is working, and what is the use of call stack and variable environment exactly. Okay. If you have any question here, you can ask. Any question, anyone, or everything is clear? No question?
No.
Okay, fine. So what I'm going to do is I'll comment this. Uh, I'm going to take one example here. Like let's say where num is equal to 3. Okay, or 10. First thing. Then I'm going to write a function over here. Okay, function, let's say multiply. Okay, and here parameter I'm going to pass as value. Fine. And here inside that I'm going to write this one where let's say result is equal to so value whatever you are getting, no, value as a parameter, I'm going to multiply it with what, 2. Okay, fine. And then I'm going to return the value where we have stored inside result. Okay, so we're done with this function, and now what I'm going to do is let's say I'm going to call the multiply function now. We'll call that multiply function, and here I'm going to pass that num. And again, I'm going to call the same function, and here I'm going to pass 30. Okay, so see here what I have written. First num I have declared. Okay, I have declared a function called multiply. Inside that function we have now result. I have declared this one, and whatever parameter I'm getting, that is also there, and I'm multiplying whatever value I'm passing here, no, as an argument in this function. While calling this, I'm just multiplying with that value to 2, and then I'm returning that final result here. Okay, so just to print that one, I need to use console.log here. Okay, okay, so we'll get that output on console. So just I'm going to save this one, refresh. So simply you are getting 20 and 60. I'll keep this one side by side. So first time when I'm calling this multiply, so what is the num value right now?
10.
10. So I'm passing 10 and it will invoke this function here. So as a parameter value, inside value, what value we have right now? 10. So 10 into 2 is 20. That we are storing inside result, and then we are returning that value. Okay. So first time we are getting 20. Next time we are getting 60. Okay, that's fine. So simply you are getting the result here, but how actually it is going to execute. So we will see this one in two different way. I'm not sure like which one you are going to like.
So when we just call multiply and num means doesn't use console.log, it doesn't execute.
It will execute, but it will return here result as a 20. So where you are storing, so that returned value somewhere you need to store, no?
Okay.
So here in console, directly it will return that value and it will display here. Okay. But here in this case, you won't be able to see that return value. So that's why inside console, I'm just calling that multiply function. Okay. Or okay, fine. Let me do one thing. Instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is simply I'll remove this one. Output 1. Okay. output 2. Okay. We are storing here whatever the returned value will be there in these two variables we are storing. And just to print those two values, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use that console.log. Okay. Just to make that one simple, output 1, comma, output 2. Fine. Now we are getting 20 and 60. Is that fine? Now we will see this one, how actually JavaScript is going to execute, how the conversation will happen between the compiler, scope manager, and JavaScript engine. And another way also we have that we will see. So the first one, yesterday we have learned about that one. It's taking time to open this one. Just 1 minute. Okay. So what I'm going to do, if you will see here, I'm going to first write 3 actors will be there who are going to communicate during the creation phase and the execution phase. The first one will be what? Compiler. Second one will be scope manager, who is creating actually what? The scope of each and every execution context. And what is execution context? Yesterday I have already told you. Anyone can tell me like what exactly the execution context is? JS execution engine, you can say. So here we have compiler. Here we have a scope manager, and then we have I'm just going to put a line in between. Okay. So the first one here we have that is creation phase, and another one is execution phase. So in the beginning, if you remember, I said that JavaScript is a minimum dual pass programming language, minimum dual pass. Why I said the first one is the creation phase, the first, and the second one is execution phase. That's why. And even practically also I have shown you, and I'll again show you that how actually that will be executed in browser, that I will show you. So tell me here, everyone, I want you people to speak out here. What is the first declaration here when JavaScript compiler is going to start parsing your code? If everything is successful, there is no error, then only. So while parsing that, where it will get the first declaration?
Variable num 10, sir.
10 is assignment.
Assignment. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
is equal to 10 is assignment. I'm saying in creation phase, just we need to take all the declarations wherever we have declarations. So the first declaration will be what? First declaration is var num only, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what is going to happen, here compiler will say, hey, scope manager, I'm going to start compilation, and I got one formal declaration for an identifier called what? Var num. Have you heard of it? What it will say? The scope manager will say what? No, I have never heard of it. Then compiler will say to the scope manager, then, okay, then right now I have started the compilation from the global scope. So by default, as I said, the first scope will be what? Where your code is, your source code is inside what? In global
Global.
scope. Once if you
Global
will,
scope.
yeah. So once if you will start running your code, that will be always what? Global scope.
Global scope.
Yeah. So it will say, hey, I got a formal declaration for which identifier called num. Have you heard of it? Scope manager will say, no, I have never heard of it. Then compiler will say, okay, then declare it in the global scope. So it is going to declare that variable as var num. A scope manager will say, hey, I'm done with that declaration. Do you have anything else? Then compiler will say, okay, I'm checking. So it will go for the next declaration. Again, it will come to the line number 70 here. What is the function name? Is that declaration? Tell me.
No, it's execution.
This one is declaration only.
Okay.
See here, I'm using function multiply. If I will call multiply like this, no, then only that is execution, isn't
Okay.
it? This is declaration, or you can say a statement. So whenever you have any statement, you need to register over there during the creation phase only. So second declaration here you can see is multiply. So what it is going to say, again, compiler will say, hey, right now, hey, scope manager, right now I'm still in global scope and I got another formal declaration for an identifier called what? Multiply. But have you heard of it? It will say, no, I have not heard of it. It is not there because you can see I have just registered which variable? Num. There is nothing else. So it will say, no, I have never heard of this multiply identifier. Then compiler will say, okay, then declare it in which scope? Right now, where we are?
Global.
Global.
In global scope. It will say, okay, declare this variable in global scope, but do remember it is a type of function, not a variable. A scope manager will say, okay, I know that is a function, then I have to create a separate execution context or the variable environment for the function. Okay, so what it is going to do, it will declare here what? Multiply as a what? As a function. This is a function. And as it said, like this is a type of function. So for each and every function, there will be a different scope. Whenever you have a function, for that particular function, we will have what? A different scope. So this is kind of abstraction. Whatever is declared inside this function, you cannot access outside. Okay. So whenever you have a function, it will create a different scope. So right now where you are, now you are not inside the global scope. Now you have to go inside the scope of this function, multiply function. So we'll see that one now. So what is the first variable inside the multiply function? Tell me. First declaration, where is that?
Var result.
Result. Result.
No,
Var result.
no,
Value.
exactly. So always remember parameter, whenever you are getting any parameter, no, inside a function declaration, that will be the first member of that particular function. Okay. So it will say, now compiler will say, hey, right now I'm inside what? Multiply function scope, and I got a parameter called value as an identifier. So declare it. Have you heard of this one before? It will say, no, I have never heard of this. Then declare this one as an what? Identifier, but it is what? It is a parameter. So it is going to declare here as what? An identifier only, value. And right now, there's no value in it, means by default, what it will be? Undefined, we know that. Now it will go for the next line, that is in line 71. Now again, compiler is going to ask here. Compiler is going to ask, hey, JavaScript engine, sorry, scope manager, have you heard of this result variable before? It will check the scope of what? This particular function. It will say, no, I have just declared one identifier called value, which is parameter, but I have never heard of this result. Then a compiler will ask to whom? To a scope manager, then declare this one as an identifier or variable. So it is going to declare this one as what? Result. Declaration is done.
So
We are done.
inside function, we are declaring in local scope, no?
Yeah, so that's what. So this is the local scope, no? This is the local scope of what? This multiply function. So this is
Okay.
not accessible outside. See, if you will try to access value or result from here, from global scope, you won't be able to do so because that is wrapped inside the what? Multiply function local scope. So this is also in the beginning only I today said like for function whatever we have declared here for that particular function, that scope will be created at the time when you will execute that, and that is also known as local scope. In browser also, I think you have seen when I was calling that function, it was creating a local scope, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the local scope. And in this scope only, its value or parameter will be available. Okay. So we are done with the multiply function. Is there anything here else inside this function? We have to return, we have to, let's say, we have to calculate this value into 2. So that we are not going to do at the creation phase. That we are going to do at what time? In the execution phase. That we will see later. So here we have to return that result. So in while execution only, once we are done with the assignment and all those evaluation, then only we have to return. So we are done with the declaration. We just need to take care of what? Declaration. So we are done with the multiply function. It will again come back to where? In the global scope. And now again compiler is going to ask, what is the next declaration here? It will check
Output 1.
output 1. Okay. Now again we are done with this scope, no? Again we will come out where we are right now again.
Global.
Global scope.
Global scope. So now we are in global scope. Then compiler is going to ask to whom? Scope manager. Hey, scope manager, I got a formal declaration for identifier called output 1 as a variable. Have you heard of this? Have you declared this one before? It will say, no, I have never declared this one. Then compiler will say, okay, then declare it as a variable. So it is going to declare this one here in global scope as what? Variable output 1. This declaration is done. Compiler will go for the next one. Next declaration. This one is function call that will happen at the time of execution. So we are not going to touch anything at this time. Okay, fine. Now we have here var output 2. Okay, var output 2, the next declaration. Compiler is going to ask again, hey, scope manager, I got a formal declaration for an identifier called what? Output 2. Have you heard of this? Scope manager will say, no, I have declared output 1, not output 2. Then compiler will ask to the scope manager, then declare it. So it is going to declare that as a variable and the name will be output 2. Now check here, is there any other declaration we have? We have declared num. We have declared this multiply function. Inside multiply functions, we have a parameter. We have declared result inside that. We have declared output 1. We have declared output 2. Now we do not have any declaration. Okay. So creation phase is done. The compiler task is done now. Okay. Now we are going to move to the next phase, that is creation phase or the execution phase. And Here, while executing this code, scope manager is going to talk to whom? JavaScript execution engine. Okay. So we will come again from top to bottom. Okay. See here. So what is the first task? First task here. Anyone can tell me? We
Like
need to assign this value.
value
Where?
of num as a 10.
Yeah. So we need to assign what value we have here? 10. And where we need to assign? Into num. Now see how conversation is going to happen between JavaScript engine and scope manager. See.
So in scope, variable num is declared as undefined, right?
Yeah, right now it is undefined, no, because there is nothing means initialized with undefined.
Okay.
If you have parameter that is initialized with undefined. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. So now JavaScript engine is going to execute here. This is just mediator and it will always wait for the instruction. If compiler will compile and it will instruct to the scope manager while creation phase, like declare it, then only it will declare. And once it will declare, it will hold that particular scope or variable environment. So now a scope manager is maintaining that record, whatever we have done during the compilation phase. Now compilation task is done. Compiler is not going to involve during the execution phase between this scope manager and JavaScript execution engine. Now JavaScript engine execution engine is going to ask again the scope manager, hey, like first what it will do in call stack you have seen, no, that we will see. Like once if you will run your code, where you will be by default?
Global.
In global scope. Exactly. You are in a global scope. So JavaScript engine, execution engine will say, hey, right now I'm in global scope. I need to assign a value 10. Where? In a variable called
Num.
num. It will ask to the scope manager, hey, I need to assign value 10 inside an identifier called num. Have you declared it in global scope during creation phase? A scope manager will say, let me check. So it will check here. It will say, yes, I have declared it. It is there. So if it is there, then only you can assign no. Otherwise, you will get what? A reference error, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here it will say, yes, num is already declared. So you can assign that value here. First thing is done, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now it will go for the next. What is the next thing here? Where it will go?
Parameter.
Line number. This is always remember, this one is function declaration. Until and unless you will not call this function, it is not going to execute. So this
Okay.
is part of declaration only. Directly control will come in line number 75. So this declaration is done. What you have to do, you have to call multiply, isn't
Multiply.
it?
Yeah.
So next execution will start from here, multiply. Okay, fine. So before executing that, you know what it is going to do? It will just cross verify. Here you have multiply, no? So JavaScript execution engine is going to ask, hey, scope manager, have you ever declared this multiply identifier? It will say, yeah, I have declared it and it is a type of function. Okay, then it will say, okay, then invoke it if it is there. So once if you will call this multiply, no, and invoke with what?
Num.
Num. It will say, I will invoke this one, but I need to check here. I got again one reference. Have you declared anything called num? It will say, yeah, just now you have assigned value in it. It is there. So what is the value of num?
10.
10. Now it is going to execute that. And once if it will start executing, here we have call stack, no? Call stack. So once if your program is running, by default, the anonymous will be there, no? That is nothing but global execution context. That will be running. Once if you will invoke this one, no? Which one will be added here?
Local.
Multiply. Multiply. So before this, let me do one thing. Right now, the control was here. Okay. So this is the top of a stack. This is a stack, no, right now. You can see this is call stack. And call stack is just to trace the control where you are right now. So here, right now you are in global execution context. Once if you will start running this multiply, if you will invoke this multiply, new execution context will be created and that will be pushed inside the call stack. And for what execution context here you will get here? For this multiply function. So here you will get multiply. So this one was global, that is anonymous. Now you are inside what? Multiply. So the scope will be here. You can see the control will come here instead of this. Okay, control will come here. It means where you are right now, you are inside what? Multiply. Okay, you are inside this execution context, multiply execution context. So this is nothing but execution context, or you can say the variable environment. Okay, so now we are able to track, no, where you are right now. You can say, hey, right now the control, it is showing that the top of a stack is multiply. So it means you are right now inside multiply only. You might have like multiple functions, nested functions, then also you can trace that I will show you. See here, now we have here multiply. We will go inside this variable environment now. Once if you are calling any function, do remember, first the execution context of that function is going to added in the call stack, and the variable environment will be active for that one. Okay, now here we have active state for this one. Okay, so now what it is going to do, we are calling multiply with argument what? The num value is what? 10. It will call here and it will come. So it will say, hey, I'm getting one value for as an argument, value 10 for a parameter called value. Is it there? So it will say, yeah, value is a parameter. So it will say, okay, then assign this value to what? This parameter called what? Value. So the updated value for this parameter is what here right now?
10.
10. So we are done with the assignment for this parameter. It will go for the next thing. See here, the right side, we have to multiply this one. So we have to evaluate. Okay, fine. First, it will check here the right hand side, whatever we have, that it will perform. So value is what? 10 into 2. What will be the value? Total value? 20. And where we need to assign, it will say, hey, we need to assign this evaluated value into what? Result. Have you heard of this? It will say, yeah, it is there. It is already declared in this scope. So you can assign it. So simply inside result, it is assigned. Now, this got updated. Result got updated with what value now? Tell me.
20.
20. So we have the new assignment for this result, that is 20. Now it is saying return the result. Okay. So it will say return the result. So return the result. So result means returned value you will see once you will come to the last line of, or you can say the last statement of the function. No, you will see the what we say, the returned value in that. I will show you. So where it will return? where it will return actually. So the control will go back, if you remember, to the here output 1. So you can see here the multiply function is getting stored inside which variable? Output 1. So once this one is finished, this will be completely destroyed and the updated value will be stored inside which identifier or which variable?
Put 1.
Output 1. And the updated value will be what? 20. Okay. Now it will go for the next invocation again. So next invocation is here, multiply. It will again check it is there. Just now we have checked. So it will say, yeah, it is there. Okay, then call it. And I'm passing argument value as what? 30. And you remember here, once you are done with this execution, once it will destroy this local scope, it is going to pop out from here. So it is going to remove this one from, let me do one thing. Just it is going to remove that execution context from where? From the call stack. Okay. So again, where you are right now, the control will come back to the global. Now I'm going to the output 2. So again, it will say, okay, output 2 is equal to what? Multiply 30. So it will check in global scope. JavaScript execution engine is going to ask to the scope manager in global scope, check whether this multiply is there or not. It will say, yeah, it is a kind of function. It is already declared. It will say, okay, fine. And then what it is going to do, it will invoke this function. Once if it will invoke, the new execution context will be created and it will be pushed where? Inside the call stack as multiply. And control will come here now. It means you are able to trace again where you are inside multiply. And once if you will invoke, as you remember, you need to create one variable environment as well. Again, here we have the same thing. You are passing 30 as an argument where it will be stored inside value 30. Then next one, it will evaluate. Here we have, if you will see the expression value into 2 here, value into 2. So it will evaluate actually. So value into 2 is what? Right now value is what? 30 into 2. And where we need to store? Inside result. And we need to return that result. And where it will return? It will return to the
Output 2.
So updated value of output 2 is what? 60. Same thing now it will check here. Console.log output 1. It will say right now, once it is done, it will remove this scope and it will be popped out from what? The call stack. So again, the control will go back to the global scope and it will print those two values. So this is actually the total, the behind the scene process for the execution of any program. Okay. First creation phase. In creation phase, just you need to check the declaration and assignment, any evaluation. If you're passing any argument to any function or any invocation, that will happen at the execution phase. So this is all about the code execution in JavaScript. So this was the first way. Okay. And the second way is also there. I can explain you. If you understood here how actually it is working, I'm not going to explain that one. So is everything is clear right now?
Clear, sir. Sir,
Yes.
one doubt at the global scope to multiple it going now, sir. That is local scope, sir.
Which one?
Here global scope.
This one?
Now, sir, here that we are multiple. It is as execution is happening now, sir. Multiple.
Here.
Here, sir. Call stack.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, globals to it is going to multiple. Multiply.
Multiply, yeah.
Uh,
So once if you are calling any function, that will be pushed to the call stack. That I'm going to
okay.
show you now. That I'm
Yeah.
going to show you now
Yeah.
here practically. See how actually it is going to execute here. That I will show you. Whatever I have explained, no, in the same way, now I will show you, and then you will be able to understand how actually it is working. So now what I'm going to do, just I'll put a debugger over here. Okay. Debugger. I'll save this one. See here. So in the call stack, as I said, once if you will run your program, that anonymous is nothing but global. Control, you see here blue arrow. It is denoting, or it is showing that right now you are in global scope. Okay. And if you are in global scope, just global scope will be visible. Okay. And all these declarations will be attached to that global scope only. So we will see first num. I'm going to put a debugger here, 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 and here. So yeah, so I'm going to show you here in global variable, sorry, in global scope. Here, this is a scope. In global scope, we will see whether all these declarations are there or not. Num and multiply, output 1 and output 2. So we will see this one. Num is there, name is there, sorry, num. You can see undefined, num undefined. Fine.
Yes, sir.
And another one is what?
Result.
Multiply.
Multiply. Yes.
We will see. So see, multiply is also there as a what? F
Sure.
function. So the whole body is showing when I'm hovering there, as a tooltip, you can see it is showing us the same body of that function. So we have seen these two are attached to what? Global scope. Another thing we are going to track, that one is
Result.
output 1.
Output one.
Result is inside function that you won't be able to see
Yes, sir.
right
Yes,
now.
sir. Global scope. Well,
So right now we are in global scope. No, if you want
yes,
to
sir.
see that result, until and unless you are not going to call that function, you won't be able to see.
Yeah.
Okay. At
Yeah.
runtime only that is going to be created. So here output 1 is undefined right now. Output 2 is undefined because these two values are unknown. We have not called yet this function, isn't it? So
Sir.
I have shown you here the global scope. Now, the first thing is done. Okay. Declaration is done for all those variables. Now we are going to assign it. See, num value got updated as 10. In global scope, we have checked it was undefined. Right now, we will see what is there.
10.
10. So it got updated.
Yeah.
So in global scope, it is, you can see updated. And right now we are in, you can see in which execution context we are. Global
Anonymous.
execution.
Yeah. Global.
Anonymous is nothing but global
Global.
execution context. Okay. So whatever execution context is running, no, by default, it will be creating that scope only here. So if you have anonymous execution context, it will create that is global scope. If you have one more function, if you are going to call, the execution context will be created and will be pushed to the call stack, and it will create another scope called local scope for that particular function. So right now you can see here output 1 value is undefined and it is going to check here. So if I'm hovering here, it is showing there that multiply is already declared, means that expression is available. So we will not get any error. So it is going to invoke, but before invoking that, it is going to check the number value as well. So we are able to trace that one or not. It is
Yes, sir.
showing that number value is 10. Now it will invoke this one. And just observe here, once if it will call that function, it will create a new execution context and it will add here as a multiply. It will create a new scope also for that particular execution context. See here, got created now local variable, and multiply is now added, and control is where? To the multiply execution context. And here we have right now, you can see in the local variable just result, we are able to access what? Value. Okay, because we have passed here first value as 10. So in argument, you are able to see that argument or not?
Sir, yes, sir.
Argument, you are able to see value as 10, but
Yes, sir.
result is not evaluated yet. So that's why it is undefined.
Fine.
Okay, so 10 into 2 is what? 20.
20.
And that will be assigned to the result. Let's see here. Got updated?
Yes, sir.
Result value is what?
20.
And return value is what?
20.
Previously, it was showing what? Undefined.
And
When we have seen in the previous program, when the function was getting executed and it was getting terminated, it was showing return value as undefined. But here we have now what? Return value as 20. So it is going to return which value? 20. Where actually it is going to return? The control will go back to that line. And once if it is done, see, once if it is done, that scope is destroyed. Okay. And that execution context is also popped out from the call stack. Again, control is back to the which execution context? Anonymous is not, yeah, anonymous means global execution context. Okay. So here we have the final value for the output as what? 20, because that got us assigned. Again, it is going to call the multiply. It will check whether it is there or not. So when I'm hovering over here, it is showing, yeah, it is a function which has a parameter called value. In tooltip, you can see. Then it will say, okay, call this method or invoke this method. And I'm passing an argument for this function as 30. So see here, again, if I'll call, it will create a new execution context for this function, and that will be added here in the call stack. And once if it is added in the call stack, it will create a local scope for that particular function also. Again, see here, this multiply is being added now. It's been added, no?
Yes, sir.
Again, the control is where? In multiply. So means you are able to trace like where the control is right now. And it has created a local memory or local variable environment, or you can say the scope. Okay. And here we have that argument value we have passed here 30. So that is assigned in the parameter called value is 30. Right now, this is not evaluated this expression. So once this one is evaluated, it will be assigned to the result. So right now it is undefined. Now see, this got assigned to the result. Updated value is 60 and it is going to return what value? 60 only. So return result as 60. Again, control will go back to the output 2. Okay. So here the output 2 value is now, you can see 60. So output 1 is 20, output 2 is 60. In console right now, there is nothing. Once if you will execute this line, no, you will get 20 and 60. So this is the behind the scene things which I have shown you. Okay. So this is all about the creation phase and the execution phase. And what is a scope? A scope is nothing but whatever we declare or what like in any scope, like what we say in any environment, variable environment which we create during the execution, we are going to just take look up that value. That is a scope actually. and where we can access the value and where we can use that particular identifier. That is known as a scope. That boundary is known as a scope or variable environment. Okay. We have seen how JavaScript code gets executed, how it is getting compiled also. Okay. And basically here in JavaScript, you have seen the first thing I have shown you, the global variable we have, global scope we have seen, function scope also we have seen. We will learn about block scope now. Okay. But before that, I'm going to show you something else. Okay. What is lexical scope? In interview, they ask like that. What is lexical scope? For that, I'm just going to comment this one again. We are going to learn about first lexical scope. What exactly the lexical scope is, we will see. Let's say here I'm going to write var num is equal to 30. Okay. And here I'm going to write a function called magic. And one thing you have observed in the above program, whenever you have a parameter, that will be also kind of variable only, but that will be the first member of that particular variable environment. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this one I'll declare this one here, var num is equal to 30. And here I'm going to create another function. Wow. Okay. And here also I'm going to declare the same thing. Instead of this, console.log, I'm going to call, num, and we'll call this one here magic, and we'll call wow. What will be the output now? Two concepts will be clear here. Actually, in this particular code snippet only. What will be the output? What do you think? How actually it is going to execute? Anyone? Any idea? Any guesses? First declaration is done. In that way, you can think declaration magic is declared. Then wow. Inside that we have num. That is okay. Now in execution phase, where the execution will start.
The exhibition will start maybe at magic.
No,
No, at
Wow,
wow.
wow.
from here.
But so inside one function you are calling another function. It is valid means.
Yeah, that is valid. You
Okay.
can call. You can call, but that you need to
So
check.
lexical scope is like in this scenario only, function inside a function calling, right?
Sorry.
See, lexical scope you are telling, so it's possible into like function inside function calling. In that scenario, lexical scope is different, right?
Lexical scope, actually, I want to explain with this example. Lexical scope means the thing which you are literally defining in your code. whatever the order you are writing, no, you cannot change in the runtime. Okay, wherever things are available, there only you can access. You got my point? I will show you. See here, the execution will start from here. Wow. Okay,
Yes, yes.
I will put a debugger over here and then I'll show you. Execution started. Okay, now see, we are in global scope. Execution context is global, scope is also global. I'm going for the next phase. The execution will start from wow because it's the first function call. Likely you cannot magic because magic is defined inside wow. Until and unless you're not going to call wow, how you will call this magic, isn't it? So first you need to start with this one. So once if you will start wow, where it will go, it will be added here in the call stack. See, the new execution context been created and that is added in the call stack and the local scope been created. So what is the value of num right now?
Define.
Undefined. Now num is 30. Magic is there. In this scope, magic is there. See, it will check no first whether it is available or not. So in local scope, first it will check magic is there. No. Okay, fine. Then go on top of it. Check outside of this scope. So outside of this local scope, what scope here we have?
Global.
No.
Global scope. So in global scope, it will check. What it will check? Whether magic is declared or not. If it is not declared, how you will call? So see, magic is declared, no? So it means it can call here. It is available and it is accessible here. Okay, now it is going to call this one. Okay, let's see. And here in execution context, you see in the call stack what is going to happen. Now wow is also waiting for the what? This is not popped out because this function is not yet completed. From here I'm calling another function. So that's why the magic is being called. Now it is going to check the num now. Where we are right now? In the local scope of the magic. Right now from here, are we able to access another local scope or other function local scope from here? How many local scopes are there here? One or two? Just one, no?
One.
And that is the local scope of what?
Magic.
Magic.
Magic. So in this local scope, do we have this num? Is that declared here? Are you able to see?
No.
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 If you are trying to access something which is not declared, it is possible in JavaScript.
No.
So what type of error you will get?
Undefined.
Reference error,
Frontend.
because it is not there. Num is not defined. It means in C, C++, I think this is possible. If you're calling here magic, it will check from here. Oh, num is there, 30, we can call. Wherever the declaration is, but you will be able to access that variable here inside this magic. But in lexical scope means whatever things you have declared, that will be organized as per that your coding order only. You cannot call that one dynamically. Okay, dynamically you cannot add that one. So here when you are calling magic, it will check there itself where it is defined, and in that particular scope you are not able to see that, no? So here code is breaking and you are getting what? Reference error. It means first thing is clear, lexical scope means
So my
like
question is like that lexical scope is only possible in this type of example, function example, or is there any
No,
other
no, no, no,
example?
no, no, no. Lexical scope, whenever someone is saying, no, what is lexical scope? So lexical scope is means while writing whatever code you are writing in that order only it is going to create the scope. There is no dynamic scope here. You can see dynamic scope is here. Like in that case, if you are writing num here and you are calling magic, even though if it is not available inside the magic function, and because you are calling this magic just after this num, you should be able to access that, but that is not happening here. Lexical means physically whatever code you are writing, no, it should run in that order only. So in JavaScript we have lexical scope, not the dynamic scope. Two types of scopes are there.
Sir, synchronous programming also like this only, sir, because
So
synchronous.
synchronous means it will execute line by line, one by one at a time. You can see here, no, this JavaScript is synchronous only. We have
Okay.
event loop and callback queue that is
Yeah.
in like when we will learn about the events and we'll work the web API with the web API, then we will see how actually it is going to work. But right now it is synchronous only. There is another way by using that you can say JavaScript is asynchronous, but JavaScript is synchronous only. JavaScript is a synchronous single threaded programming language. At a time, it can execute only one thing, not multiple things.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah. So that is the proof here in call stack. At once, it can call only one function. It can create that particular execution context and it can work with that particular what? Scope only. Okay. We will see the scope chain as well now. But here I have shown you that dynamic scope is not possible. This language is dynamic. Why we are saying this language is dynamic? Because at a time you can declare a variable and you can assign in that variable any type of value that we have seen. This language is dynamic, but scope is not dynamic here. This is lexical. Okay. Now I'm going to take some other example here apart from this. Let's say here we have a function. I'm saying magic 1. Okay. Here we have var x is equal to 10. Or we can say here num1. Now inside this, we have another function called magic 2. Okay. And here I'm going to declare var simply num is equal to 20. Console.log going to call num, going to call num1, and we'll call here magic 2. Okay. Again, inside this function, I'm going to use another function here, declare another function called magic 3. Okay. And here I'm going to declare one variable called var num3 is equal to, in order I'm going to take 10, 20, 30. Okay. This one is num2. Num2. Okay. And here I'm going to call magic3. So, and outside this one, I'm going to call magic1. So anyone can tell me here what will be the output? At least tell me from where the execution will start. Here we have the outer function.
Magic one. From magic one, the
From
execution.
magic1 execution will start, isn't it? Okay. So what will be the output? Once magic1 means here, it is going to start from here. Inside num1, we have 20. Then it is going to check here. This is declaration for magic2. Okay. Till here. From here to here, you can see. Okay. This is magic2. So inside magic2, what it is going to do? First declaration is there, an assignment. Here it will print the num and num1, and then it will call the magic2. So magic2, once it will execute, inside that again it will come, and here we have num2 value is 30, and it is going to print num and num1. Okay. And yeah, and after that it will call magic3. So once if you'll call magic3, from here it is going to check num, num1, num2. So we'll see that how actually it is going to execute, and then I'll tell you like how exactly the scope chain will work. So I'm going to put a debugger over here. Okay. And see this one. So if you will see here, we have this program. I'm going to start this one. So first thing you can see, the assignment will happen to the num. So right now it is undefined, and we are where, check the call stack. We are where in global execution context. So it is just showing that particular scope only. So assignment is done now. Inside num we have 10. It will check here magic1 is declared. It is declared, that's why you are able to see in the tooltip that is as a function. Okay, fine. So invoke this one. So once if you will invoke, check the call stack and scope as well. Sorry, I need to put a debugger over there. Okay. Yes. Let me execute this one now. We'll complete this example, and still I think one day it will take to complete this scope. We are not yet done. Just I'll explain this scope chain, or you can say the nested scope, how it will work. Okay. So we have seen that lexical scope is supported in JavaScript. Dynamic scope is not possible. Another thing is the scope chain. So here, first thing is you can see it is going to assign value in it. Num is equal to 10, that we know now. That is very easy. Now it is going to invoke that magic 1. Check the call stack now. Here it is going to invoke. So once if you will invoke that one, the execution context for magic 1 is created, and one variable environment or a scope is also being created here. You can see that is a local scope for what? Right now, where is the control? The control is inside magic 1. And for this scope, here you can see we are able to see that magic 2 is inside that, and num1 is right now undefined. So first assignment will happen here, and the value will be updated there. You can see that is 20, and still we are in where? In magic 1. So here it is able to access num value, because you see before this one, whatever you will have no before this one, you will be able to access that particular value, because this is top. Right now from bottom here you see that is the parent. So whatever we have inside global, if the local variable of the magic is trying to access, it will be able to access that, because this is the parent of what? This one. Okay. So here it is able to access the outer variable, or in another way, it will say like that. If you will see in that conversation way, like JavaScript execution engine will say, hey, check whether num is declared or not in this scope. So it will say no, in this scope it is not declared. Then a scope manager will say, let me check outside of this scope whether it is declared or not, because whatever you have no on parent, that you can access inside, but the whatever you have inside that function, if you will try to access outside, that is not possible. Okay. Child to parent is not possible, parent to child is possible always if you want to access. So the outer scope is global. Inside that here we have magic, inside that here we have the magic 2, again inside that here we have magic 3. So magic 3 can access the data of its parent, like magic 2 and magic 1 or global scope. Okay. Now see here, it will go for the global scope, and in global scope num is there. Yeah, num is there. If you will see, num is 10, so it is able to access that one right now. I'm just going to collapse this, so it will print num value, that is 10, and in this scope only we have what? If we'll expand this one, num1 value is what? 20. So it will print all these two things here. So in console you can see first 10 is there, and then it will print what? 20. Okay. So you can see a 10 and 20 is there. Now next thing, after this, it is going to call magic 2. It will check whether magic 2 is declared in this scope or not. So it is declared. Okay, so it is going to call. Where we are right now? In magic 1. Once if you will call that magic 2, no, so magic 1 is still not yet done, because magic 2 is also the part of magic 1 only. Once you will complete these things, then only it will terminate. So right now where you are, so this is on hold right now. Magic 1 is on hold until and unless you're not going to complete the magic 1 things, it will be on hold. Now which execution context got invoked here or
Magic
pushed?
2.
Magic 2. And the local variable for magic 2 is being created here. Okay, and here you are able to see the closure. That concept also we are going to learn, because there is a dependency between magic 2 and magic 1. So still the garbage collector is not going to remove something which is dependent. So see here, the num1 we are going to use, no, num1 we are going to use inside this somewhere here we are using. That's why it is not deleting this one. Otherwise it has deleted all those references like magic 2 and everything. Okay, so closure we will see later, but for this one magic 2, see here inside this magic 3 is there, num2 is there, which is right now undefined. Go for the next. So num2 is now updated to 30. So here still it is able to access that value because it will go for the another scope. Check the existing scope. If it is not there, check outside of this one. So the parent is magic one. So here also num is not declared. So go again outside of that one, where in global. So global is the last scope. If it will not find there also, then you will get error. Okay. So num is there in the global scope. So then it is going to return that value first num and then num1 again. So num1 is still accessible here because it is there. You can see just outside of this magic2. In magic1 here we have num1, so it is able to access its parents data. So it will print again 10 and 20. So let's see here. I'm going to print 10 for that one and 20 again. So you will get now 10 and okay, the control is still. Now it will print 20. And after this, it is going to call magic3. And you can see here in the call stack, still you have here the magic1 and magic2. I'm going to call the magic3 now. See, now magic2 is also on hold. Magic3 is being executed. And now we have two closures. The first closure is for the magic1. See, num1 value we are using. That's why it is not deleting. Otherwise, it is deleting each and every unnecessary thing. Here for the magic2, in magic2 we are using just this variable no, of this particular function. So that's why it is still storing that one. It is not deleting that. So now it is creating the local scope for this one. Which one? For the magic3. So is there magic3, is there any formal declaration in the magic3? No, just we need to print the values which is not the you can say the part of this particular function. We are taking num1 num2 from outside of this scope. So that's why here you can see in this local scope there is no formal declaration, just we have this. So one by one it will check here. Hey, check whether num is there or not. So in this scope, it is not there. So it will go outside of that scope, where in the magic2, it will check, hey, num is there? No, here we have just num2. Check the magic1, its parent. Num is there? No, here we have num1. Then it will go for the its parent global, and it will check whether num is there or not. If it is there, see, it is there. So it will just print that word value. So a scope chain means just if you are in the nested like function, if you are like inner function, always it will go from outside to, sorry, inside to outside. It will check in the existing scope. If it is not available, it will check its parent and it will go till the global scope. If it is not able to find that particular identifier or value, then it will simply return you as a reference error. Okay. So it is checking like that. You can see it will check its parent first in the existing scope, then its parent, then its grandparent, then grandparent, like that it is checking. And when it is able to find, then it will print simply. So first it is able to find this num in which scope? In global scope. So that's why it will print first num. So in console, you can see it is going to print num value, that is 10. Next, so it will check here again num in which scope right now, where we are in magic3. In magic3 local scope, do we have that num1? No. So it will go for its parent. Okay. And the parent of this magic3 is what? Magic2. Do we have here num1? No, we have num2. Okay, fine. Go one level up again. Inside magic1, we have num1. So it will print what? Num1 value. And here you can see it is going to print 20. And now we have here num2. And where we are right now? In magic3. So in magic3, if you will see, the local scope is the, for this magic 3, do we have num2 value here? No. So it will check its parent. And what is the parent of this magic 3? Is magic 2.
2.
So in magic 2, do we have num2? Yes, we have num2 and value is 30. So it is going to print that value here. And the final output here will be 30. And now check the call stack now. Once we are done with this magic function, no, so it will be popped out from here, and that scope or the variable environment will be also deleted from there. See, magic 3 is popped out. So where is the control right now? We are inside magic 2, and we have the local variable of what? Right now, this one is for the magic 2 only. Again, magic 2 is also popped out. We have local variable of what? Control is back to magic 1. And magic 1, if you will terminate this one is also going to popped out from the stack. And again, you are back to the where?
Global.
Scope. So this is the like about the scope chain. Okay.
So
If
where we have to put that debugger point means.
so debugger points means here first you can write like this also. Debugger, if you will put on the top of your code, it will start debugging from the first debugger automatically will be added. And thereafter, if you want to check here, like the function, when you are calling here, you can put here also while calling. And here also, wherever you want to call or you want to check or you want to break that code, there you need to put the breakpoints. Okay.
Means where we have to means how is the execution going on? We want to check there. We have to put that.
Yes. So in
And
real
if
time
we didn't
also.
put anyone, sir, so it didn't give anything execution means. If we not put any debugger point.
So simply it will execute. See here, if I have removed each and everything. So here we have one debugger. If you will just click on this one, it is going to execute each and everything. So one debugger means one breakpoint. Okay. So just here I'm using this debugger to, in the starting only, it will break here before starting. If I want to do something like while executing, I want to check here. I want to break the code here as well, and here as well. And I want to check here as well. Wherever you want, you can put a breakpoint. Okay. And when you will press F10, it will go to the next breakpoint, line by line, it will execute. Like that you can add. And this is very useful. That's why I'm showing you in the developer
Also, I
tools.
didn't understand means when we didn't put any debugger point, then how will
Any
it work?
debugger point, like I have removed right now each and everything. You can see there is no debugger point except this one. Okay. So see, if you will start this. So while starting this one, it is stopping here, no? Kind of breakpoint. It is not letting me to execute directly. Okay. So if, see what it is showing, a step over next function call. So next function call is where? Here. And once it will go for the next function call, I'm not stopping this one to execute this function. So automatically it will execute each and everything. What I'm saying, execute everything, but when you reach here, no, then it should break. See?
Oh, means it directly return all the answers like
Yeah,
that.
each and everything is executed here, except that last one. See, 10, 20, 10, 20. But still it will stop you where? When you will come to the magic 3. Okay. So then you can use breakpoints. So we are done with the lexical scope, dynamic scope, scope chaining. Okay. Nested scope also, you can say in interview, they ask like that. Tomorrow we are going to learn about automatic global variable declaration and how to stop that. We will see. And we'll learn about block scope. Block scope means we are going to learn about the let and const tomorrow.